Welcome back. This tutorial is on creating rooms and lighting for the rooms inside our model. If you like these tutorials or find them helpful, then please remember to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell icon to be notified when I post new tutorials. Welcome back. I want to pick up where we left off last time. We've got the majority of our detail ready to go. I've just got to close this gap. I never did color these pieces back here. So, wow, all gray. Boy, that must have been from very early days. I'm going to pick the antique gold for the big one, and this piece is going to get replaced anyway sooner or later. So that should be copper. Alright, so that'll render out a little better. Alrighty, I'm going to put the two rounded pieces, one above and one below here, and then I've got to figure out what to do about this. So Z, A to deselect everything, and I'm just going to use a sphere. So Shift A, Mesh, UV sphere. Let's see. Ooh, I want an odd number of rings. I'm going to take this to 17. And that gives me a band in the center. Here's why I want that. So let's rotate that 90 degrees. Grab it, bring it down here. Scale this. Scale. All right. Let's take a look at this here. So it's rounded on both ends. Don't need this anymore. I love Chris Trice's pictures. Rounded on both ends and round like a cylinder here going front to back. All right. Looks like Alan's drawings have the proportions and everything about right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mess things up. Shift, middle mouse click. Oh, I apologize for there being no tutorial last week. I actually wore out the middle mouse click of my mouse. So it's kind of like a joke. How do you know when you spend too much time in Blender when your middle mouse button breaks? So I'm going to scale this down a little bit. Whoops. Scale. All right. Now, in these pictures, these look elongated. They don't look perfectly round to me. So I'm going to scale Z, scale X. Man, tonight I'm having a rough time. That looks about right. Smooth. Don't need an edge split on this one. We do need to give it a hull. Let's see if I can actually do hull gray first time. Holy mackerel. All right, Z, and tab into it so we can edit it. So A to deselect. And here's why I wanted this middle band. So B, and grab 1/2. So grab X, and oops, let's turn off my proportional editing. I did not do that before. Grab X and move it to match here. Great. A to deselect. B, and grab the front half. And we're going to grab X and move it so that it fits here. Tab. And while I'm thinking about it, Shift, Alt, Control, I think it's C, and origin to geometry. Puts the origin right in the middle. We're going to Shift D, grab Z, move this down, tab into it, A to deselect the selected verts, B, we're going to pick the back half, grab X, move this into place, A to deselect, tab, and then Shift, Alt, Control, C, and move the origin to the center of this one. Okay, basically, this is done. We're going to grab both of these. I'm going to go to 3. Here they are out here. We're going to grab Y and move them till they're about in place. Actually, that doesn't look bad. Z. Hey, Nice. Let's go to Control 7. Grab Y. Ah, I'm going to want to rotate these. All right, so I'm going to rotate, I think rotate Z, yeah. Until that looks about right. Grab Y. There we go. All right, looks nice. Look at it from the side. And then let's do this trick of going rendered. It'll look a little more realistic. Okay, very nice. I've just got to clean up that one gap there. I didn't realize I had one there. All right, so that looks pretty good. Z. I'm going to grab this arm here. And I know that some of you had already told me a trick or two. Grab this one. A little easier to see, Eric, if it's where you expect it to be. Tell you what, I'm going to move that to layer 5. And I'm going to move this part to layer 5. I'm going to go to layer 5 and ignore everything else. Okay, so there we go. Got our two things, but they're not perfectly matched. Oh, is that why? Of course, Eric. All right, so what's going on here? Some angles it's perfect, some angles it's not. Why is that? Am I missing something? Did I have... Is it perfect and I've got something else in place? I'm going to go here. There's nothing there. Oh, well, actually, Eric, it'd be a lot easier if you... Wonder if that's getting in the way. There it is. There's that line. But it's not because of a mismatch. I think I've got something intruding. And I think it's this. Yep. It is. All right. So let's move the big warp engine back. Move this arm back to 1. Let's go to 1. And I'm going to grab this rounded piece. Move to 5. I think this is what's causing that weird gap, or what looks like a gap. All right, so I'm going to grab this face. I'm going to grab Y. Whoops. Grab Y and move it back just a fraction. Do the same on the other side. Grab Y and move it in just a Control Z. Let's look at this Control 3 here. Alright, so grab this, Control 3, grab Y, and move it in just a tad. Alright, Tab 1. Let's bring back in all of our other layers. And A to deselect. Let's go to rendered view and see if we still get that weird. Do not. I think I was right. Okay. So we move that one face. Everything looks much, much better. We've just got to duplicate it for the other side now. All right. So, Z. Going to grab my new piece here. Go to 3. Z. Shift S. Let's move our cursor back to center. Right? And I'm going to Shift Control Alt C, and I'm going to move my origin to my 3D cursor, which is way up here. And I'm going to throw in a mirror modifier. Whoa, right first time. Ha ha. Nice. Move that up. What the heck? All right, cool. Now I'm going to pick this and this, and I'm going to join them. So Control J. I don't see any reason why not to. And then pick that new item again. Shift Alt Control C, and we're going to move our origin to 3D cursor. And then we're going to add a mirror modifier. Y. Z. Wow. Boy, they're in the wrong area. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that. What am I not doing here? Shift Alt Control C. Origin to 3D cursor, which is centered. Adding a mirror modifier should just, oh, way the hell up there. Where does it go with Y? Doesn't matter. All right, so we're not going to mirror. What we're going to do is good old-fashioned duplication. So Z, going to Shift D to duplicate the thing. Grab Y, move it over here. Now, we're going to have some angulation problems, right? Which might actually explain why we're having that problem. Control 7. We're going to go over here and look at the port side. Grab Y. Yeah, we're going to want to rotate Z. Whoops, yeah. Okay, so Shift, Alt, Control, C, whoops. Shift, Control, Alt, C. We're going to do origin to geometry, put it right in the middle. I'm going to rotate this like that. Grab Y and, all right, so Control 1. Oh dear. I'm overtaxing my system here, but let's see. Okay, so we're going to rotate Z just a little. Grab Y, move it out just a tad. And let's see what that looks like. Oh, I don't have good lighting on this side. All right. Well, A to deselect, and I'm going to grab my lighting from this side, Shift D. Make it bounding, make it 3D cursor, rotate. All right, now let's look in on our port side again, and rendered. Nice. Okay, that's looking nice. Now, even the original didn't have that. If you're doing like a duplication of a museum piece, the original was not detailed on the port side. But it's a lot easier than doing what they did, and that's creating new textures for the ship, for the registry and the name and everything, putting it on backwards, rendering out your sequences, and then flipping them. It's just easier to build the other side as a duplicate of your original. I'm curious about something here. Smooth and edge split and rendered. Oh, good. That does look somewhat smoother. All right, nice. All right, so I guess we've got. I'm leaving my rounded, tiny little lights on the saucer. So everything is pretty much done, except we don't have a port warp engine. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what I was doing down here with all of these items. We're going to try and mirror everything. All right, so our cursor is still in the center. I'm going to pick this. Wonder what happens. Let's see here. Let's add a mirror. And X is not what we want. Y is what we want. But yep, nope. All right, so before I do that, Shift, Control, Alt, C, origin to 3D cursor, add our mirror modifier, turn on Y, and it goes perfectly into place. All right, do that with literally everything that we have made on this warp engine. And then I'll come back and we'll have 2 warp engines in place. I just realized why the rounded areas didn't mirror properly. I didn't normalize rotation. What is that? Alt R? I'm trying to remember. Whoops. No. Okay, so I've got something selected. Now let's get rid of mirror. Hang on. Yeah, I don't know why I'm not doing it. I'm hitting the wrong button. It should be Alt R. Control Z. Ha! Hang on. Maybe it's Control A. So Control A. There we go. Apply location. Control A. Apply rotation. Control A. Scale. Oh, can't believe I forgot that. 7. Shift. I was trying to hit Shift. All right. So now when I throw on my mirror and tell it Y. Yes. Oh. All right. So don't forget. It was Control A, not Alt. All right. Finish. Control A, and then center your origin on the center 3D cursor, and then mirror in the Y direction each piece that we have modeled. Come back when you're done. In fact, in order to see this happen a little faster, I'm going to split my screen in half, I'm going to zoom in on whatever pieces I'm working on, right? And then zoom in on the other warp engine. All right, cool. So now I'm going to, whoops, mirror in the Y direction, and it's said it's there. All right, so that's working well. One thing that's a little different is I went to my front mode on my original here on the starboard side, because I want to see which of these lights I am selecting. It's a lot easier when you look at them as objects from the front here. Plus, as long as you keep things mirrored and don't and later on we'll be separating them, I suppose. But when you select something that's mirrored, the same item on the other side will also be highlighted. So I know which ones I have mirrored. Like this one is not mirrored yet. So Control A to apply location, rotation, and scale. Shift Alt Control C to throw the origin at the 3D cursor. Then you quick throw on a mirror and put it in the Y direction, and it shows up in the correct spot. Okay, great. Keep going with that until you've done that to absolutely every item on your warp engine. Okay. All right, as you can see, I have mirrored everything, I think. And Enterprise is looking more like the Enterprise now. One thing I want to do right off the bat, I might as well join this up, is now I've got two green lights on the top of my warp engines because they are mirrored. So I'm going to go and I'm going to select that thing, and I'm going to apply my mirror. Now, I'm also going to Shift D and duplicate it. Now, if I tab into it, I've got two, so I've got four of these, two on each side. I'm going to select, I've selected one pair, and I'm deleting one of that pair. Now, I've still got three of these left, you see. So if I select this one, it's going to show on both sides again. So I'm going to tab into it. All right, and this time, I'm going to select all the verts over here, and I'm going to delete that one. All right, so now, tab out. I've got one over here, and I've got one over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run to my materials, delete the green glass, and look for my red glass. All right, so now I've got a green one on the starboard side and a red one on the port side. So if I go to my normal view here, I'll actually look at it from an angle we never saw the Enterprise. Well, almost never. This is similar to Corbomite maneuver or the trouble with tribbles, but what we're going to do is go to rendered view, and we've got one green one on the starboard side and one red one on the port. So that's not so bad. And we've got two sets of warp engines that are lit, and if we apply all the mirrors, we can copy and paste. If we leave them as such, when we animate these things, they'll be perfectly similarly animated on both sides, The one thing that'll be a little difficult when we get to that part is the warp engine spinners, the blades inside the warp engines, because we can't, well, it'll be interesting. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, actually, I was going to say we were done modeling, but we're not. We would have to, well, not have to. How I do the rest of the ship when it comes to the lights is to put simple boxes for rooms kind of beneath all the areas that need lights. And I guess we can launch into that and show how some of that is done. I don't do it to create rooms. What I do is I put these boxes in place so that I can control the lighting per window. And I really should have had you name all the different components as we made them up in the scene. And we're going to do that for some things like the warp engine lights and the blades in the warp engines and the blinking lights. I want them all to have separate names so that we can control them and easily find them. All right. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to select this. So I'm going to move it back to layer 1. Move these. Layer 1. We're going to leave our spinners and lights in their own layers. I think I've got some modeled components elsewhere, so I'm going to move this to layer 1. Move this to layer 1. These two little lights move to layer 1. I'm pretty sure I've got something somewhere else too. Yeah, here we go. So B, move to layer 1. All right, so we've got lights in the light layer. We've got cameras in the camera layer. We've got most of the model in layer 1, A to deselect everything. We've got our warp engine lights in their own layer, and the spinners for the warp engines in their own layer. All right. So now we're going to be jumping in and out of this first layer here. I'm going to show you the concept in the neck where this is essentially easiest to do. What we're going to do is Shift A, Mesh, Cube, and we've got a cube right in the center of our ship, which is going to come in handy. I'm going to grab X and move it back by the neck. Scale this, whoops, bounding box center is what we want. Scale this down. And I want to scale in the Y direction so it's half or less as wide as the neck. All right, so as a matter of fact, let's move our box to layer 4. And for right now, we're going to move the neck to layer 4. Oops. Oh, that was silly, Eric. We're going to move that to layer 4. All right, go to layer 4, and we've only got the neck and the box. So I'm going to go to 1, grab, and move this down over one of the windows. Okay, so I'm going to scale Z and scale X. All right, and I'm going to look up top. So now, if I turn this Z, grab Y, and move this out, we'll notice a problem, okay? I have some of it inside and some of it outside. Grab Y, I'm going to move it so it's all outside. Let's take a look at it from the top here. All right, so Z, no good. So I'm going to scale Y. Matter of fact, scale Y a little more. I just don't want it to go all the way to the center. Because when we do the other side, right, I don't want to interfere with what we've got going on. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make the equivalent of a room. It's not really going to be a room. It's just a box. We'll give it a material, something, probably something diffuse, but we could do maybe a mix of diffuse and glossy. But the first thing, so I'm going to tab into this, A, to deselect everything, and for whatever reason, I'm on face select. So I'm going to click the face that's towards the outside and X, and I'm going to pick a dissolve face. I guess I'm going to pick delete face. All right, that didn't work. So delete face. All right, cool. So now I've got a 5-sided box with one side open. And I'm going to go to my modifiers, and I'm going to add solidify. And it's at 0.01, which is really thin. What happens if I make it 0.02? 0.02. 0.05. Oh, that's not bad. And I'm not going to apply it yet, but I am going to change this to vertex selection mode. I'm going to go to 7. Now, I'm going to pick my top rightmost vertex. I'm going to grab Y. I'm going to move it until it disappears right behind the wall of the neck. I'm going to do the same with this. Grab Y. Then I'm going to grab the bottom ones, grab Y, and grab Y. Okay, so if I go to Z, I've got a room. It's behind the walls of the neck, right? And it's centered on one window. I usually don't make them this large, but for now this will do. All right, so now we're going to A to deselect that. Shift A, I'm going to add a plane. So now I've got this giant, humongous plane. We're going to scale this down. Grab it, move it towards our room here. Scale. All right, so it's smaller than the room. And from front and back, it's in the room, so to speak. 1. And we're going to have to grab this Z and put it inside our room. All right, so I'm going to select the room again. I'm going to go to our materials, right? And let's look and see if there's anything in here that'll do the job. I could pick like a medium, a light hull gray or silver or something, but nah, I'm going to make this a new one. I'm going to call it room. And we'll make it a mix node, mix shader. I'm going to pick some diffuse and some glossy, and I'm going to leave it kind of grayish, and I'm going to grab that little plane that we put in there. Now I'm going to make a room light. So a new material again. So room light. And from diffuse, we're going to switch that to emission. And I'm going to make this, I don't know, 10. All right, now I'm going to add everything back in. And I'm going to go to rendered view. And that is really well lit, far too well lit. So let's chop that down to 5. And maybe bring this down to 1 or 2. 2. That's too little. 5 is too much. 3. maybe 4. 4. Okay, not bad. It's not overpowering, and it's not a perfect light source. Hang on. All right, so what's the point of this? I've added a box with an open side to it, right? I've put a light inside the box to simulate a room. My windows are not completely clear. How they did this in the original series was they had like little pieces of plexiglass, no doubt, that were put in flush with the wall of the model and lightly sanded, right? That frosted them. Then they put a bulb behind the lights, behind the windows that they wanted to light up, and turn on the light, and you look like you have a room or something behind that glass. It's emitting light. Now, you could do something that would not have the same subtle effect if you simply turned the glass into an emission texture and cranked it down to like 1 or 2. It would certainly be lit. It would certainly show off light, but it wouldn't look like there's anything in there. Mine is kind of a cross between, it doesn't look like a room. It doesn't look like there's just a light in front of the window like a model, but there's a subtle variation from, say, top to bottom and perhaps left to right, depending on how you do this. And that makes it, in my eyes, look a little more real. Now, we're going to do the same with wherever you want the lights to appear. But during the run of the series, you could see, whoops, thank you, that not all the windows were lit. Like actually the room that I just lit now was never lit during the run of the series. And the 2 forward windows, neither were the 2 forward windows. So it actually starts at the third and goes down to the bottom. 2 in the back, 4 in the front, and then several of the rounded ones. This one actually has like a reddish or orangish tint to it. No doubt there was a bulb that was going bad or something. But that stayed the same throughout the run of the production series. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my little assemblage here. I'm going to take that light and the box, grab Z, take it down to the third window. I'm actually going to grab it, X, and move it a little this way. All right, now, it's not coming out, so I'm going to go to here, 7, Z, I'm going to, oops, select my room, tab into it, grab, actually let's grab all 4 of our front verts, Z, grab Y, move them until they start to come out. Okay, I'm going to move so that one of them is hidden. I don't need to move that one again. All right, I'm going to grab this vert, grab Y, grab Y, and grab Y. Okay, great. So now, tab out, bring everything back in, including our cameras and lights, go to 1, and go to our rendered mode. And we've got pretty much what we had before. Lighting is a little different because I moved the whole thing back a little bit. But again, I think it conveys a bit of realism. The lighting is not perfectly uniform. And I like that a lot. Now, you can do what you like with these. Again, you could literally pick these and turn them into emission sources. But you've seen how I light rooms for the ship. It's extremely simplistic, but the effect, when you see it over a whole model, is rather pronounced. Sometimes I include more than one window with a single light source. And that helps convey, like, maybe the thought of a corridor or a hallway or something like that, or maybe one big stateroom with 2 windows. But you just don't want the boxes to overlap. And you could, if you're going to control the lights, like me, when I'm going to set up my lights, they're going to stay the same. They're going to stay like that for as long as I've got the model, probably. But if I wanted to control the lighting, then I would name my lights and perhaps name the room. But you can do this for all the windows and use a derivation of what I've done. And when you're done, you're going to have a lit model, at least for the windows. And when you get far enough away, hopefully you can still see the light. If not, we could always increase the room light because it's just a material, and you could certainly control it here. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to pick my light source, and I'm going to crank it back up to the original 5 and just leave it at that. Go ahead and start putting boxes. Now, the reason why I showed you how to do this, like I said, on the neck, it's relatively easy. You're going to have to do this for the saucer, for the underside, for the side, and even for these boxes on the top, and of course on the BC deck. So if you want an easy resource to look at, Charles Casimiro on his website has some very nice orthographic renders. And one of the things that's really nice about it is, he shows for the production Enterprise which lights are on and which lights are off. I think he's got a couple of them incorrect because not all the lights up here were always lit. But the neck and underneath are pure gold as a resource. This is exactly the way they were during the production run of the series. And you can even see the colors of some of the lights and so on. That's interesting. That actually looks greenish. Anyway, if you go to Charles Casimiro's, if you chose his plans, you might actually have downloaded some of these pictures. He did his own version of the blueprints. They differ from Alan Sinclair's. In some ways, they are closer to the original. In some ways, they are not. He included the little bump down here. There was a spot where, not quite centered, there was a pole that got put into the 11-foot model, and it rested on that pole. And that pole itself was on a great big anvil-like device that had engines attached to it, so it could turn slowly left and right. And so when the Enterprise would turn slowly left and right, they would also position the camera and sometimes move the camera towards the ship. And that's how they got their orbit when the Enterprise is going around a planet. The camera was moving just to the left of the model, right? And they would turn the Enterprise slightly to port as the camera is approaching. So it wasn't really circling anything. It was just turning, and the camera was moving closer and closer. And that's going to become important when we go to make animations. But for right now, if you want a nice, easy reference for what windows should be lit, if you're going to try and imitate the production version of the Enterprise, you can use Charles Casimiro's renderings, which are spot on. They're wonderful. And then next time, so go ahead and light all the windows that you like, do some experiments, see if you like your results. And next tutorial, I do believe we're going to start texturing. So I will see you next time. Thanks for sticking with it this long, and I'm curious to see what your models look like. Thank you, and talk to you later.